A lot of things in life tend to appreciate in value. The whole joke is that when you drive a car off the lot, it depreciates in value. But when you're buying things as an investment, like a home, part of that is because it's going to go up in value over time. Or the same can be applied to collectibles. Wine is sort of the notorious go to in pop culture as something bought specifically because it might have more value as a collectible. Well, obviously, this being an adult toy collector channel, we're talking toys, and with the boom in 80s toys selling for big bucks in, well, the 90s, looking to relaunch Star Wars was kind of a no brainer for Kenner, and it did so with Power of the Force 2. Now, while this kicked off what became decades and decades of action figure collecting in 3 3/4 scale, well, at the time, we didn't know that the line was going to get as big as it has, and for a lot of the Power of the Force 2 figures, we made the assumption that these were kind of one and done. We were never ever going to get another Rancor Keeper figure again. Better go buy him now. All right, so yeah, a lot of figures we felt were hard to find, but the reality is, well, especially after several decades, these figures are barely selling for SRP back in 1995's prices. So yeah, you can pick up most of Power of the Force 2 pretty darn cheap, and a big part of that is because all of these core characters, with the exception of a small handful, I'll link that at the end of the video, have been redone and redone multiple times, and many times better. It's kind of like that boom in the 90s that was happening with comic books. People also saw vintage toys going for a lot, and, well, that meant scooping up variants from Power of the Force 2 became the first hard-to-find figures. Now, these were just running changes, in some cases errors, like when the lightsaber for all of the Luke and Obi-Wan figures and Vader from the very first batch just, well, came out too big. I mean, granted, Obi-Wan's hands aren't anything to celebrate either, those giant C-clamps, but the saber was eventually shortened. But those first few figures that came with an elongated sword, a longer sword, how about that? Tended to go for big bucks immediately, but yeah, now you can get them for almost nothing on eBay. Probably the variant that stands out the most as far as a running change is the notorious Boba Fett with circles or half circles. You can see the circles on his hand, on his glove there. That's how it was supposed to be. That was the correct version. But the first run had incorrect half circles on the gloves, and this led to a huge spike in popularity for this Mandalorian warrior, and something that would be followed by many Mandalorian warriors after him. But yeah, getting that half circle version, that was, you were the coolest kid if you could find that. Well, once it cooled down and people realized Power of the Force 2 was here to stay, chasing running changes and variants became a little less of an issue. Packaging still, though, became an issue with different changes like the addition of the hologram stickers, but it was the initial package change from the orange to the green, which happened relatively soon within the overall life of Power of the Force 2, which was about 4 years. At the time, it felt like, oh yeah, package change. But those first few figures to show up in orange cards, well, the fourth wave, which was returned to A New Hope with Jawas and Sand Troopers and Greedos, had a very, very limited run on orange cards. For the bulk of their run, they were put on the green card, which is what all of the branding turned to at the end of the first year. And for the most part, green stuck around. But having that fourth wave, that early wave on an orange card, has actually still been one of the few early variants and package variants that's become quite collectible over the years. All right, now, as we move along, it wasn't necessarily the package changing or running changes that were causing hard to find figures. Now it's switched over to too much shipping. So the first wave that this really hit with was the, I guess, bad guy wave. That's what the blue cards were, with New Vader, Piet, and Ishi Tib, which is a good guy, and Zuckuss, which is an alien, but I guess he was working for the Empire. Now, again, all of these characters have been redone. Well, actually, Ishi Tib hasn't, but it can be said it was a remarkable wave, especially in the sense that it had the world's first removable helmet Vader 3 3/4 action figure, something that we really wanted as kids, now is basically a mainstay in most Star Wars lines. But at the time, it was like, ooh, his helmet comes off. They finally figured out the technology to not make it a pinhead. So it was cool, and it was a great figure, and it was a great wave. And the reason that it became really hard to find this wave wasn't because, we had these obscure aliens from Return of the Jedi that most people don't even know were in that scene, or, again, our very first Piet figure, since we never had Piet as kids, and thank goodness we're finally getting a new one. It's only been like 25 years. But this wave, as I said, it was a blue striped wave, which were the bad guys. Blue was the bad guys. Yellow were aliens, neutrals, Jabba the Huttses, that kind of thing. And red were the rebels, the good guys. It was a way to differentiate at retail and get retail to order 3 different basic figure assortments. But a recent assortment of yellow carded figures, specifically the one with these Jabba's droids, well, it clogged the pegs and it prevented other waves like that blue one and this red one here that had Mon Mothma, Pruneface, and Lobot in it. So both waves were directly affected by the overshipping of the yellow wave. And I mean, Mon Mothma is basically one of the most important characters in all of Star Wars, so getting her as a figure was awesome. And this was the second ever original female character, meaning, not just a variant of Leia in the modern line. Now, granted, the Lobo figure wasn't the greatest. It was more if you like doing disco with Ugnaughts, I guess. And even, luckily we've also gotten remakes of him. But yeah, this was like one of the probably worst of the Power of the Force 2 figures that were released. And, Pruneface was not bad, but again, would get a re-release later on. But yeah, this whole wave, it just got knocked down by the overproduction of earlier waves, and the fact that specifically that yellow alien wave that preceded it was just so overshipped, and the characters just did not sell as well as direct good guys and bad guys. The third wave that was affected by this never even made it to retail, the one with Reese and the Death Star Trooper. And again, while it wasn't like this was the world's greatest Death Star Trooper, I mean, I still don't get what's going on with that thing under his helmet. This wasn't. Not to mention, this is a figure people would want to army build and have multiples of. And, having a hard to find figure that you'd want to buy multiples of, even harder to find. Now, there's still room for improvement. I'm still hoping for the lighting effect gray outfit version that inspired the original Kenner figure. Yes, that was the lighting. They weren't actually in gray suits. And, of course, we've had corrected black-suited versions, and there have been, hits and misses here as well. So, obviously, enough time has passed. But at the time, finding Reese and finding the Death Star Trooper at retail was basically, it just never even happen. This is the only wave I never saw at retail in, 35 years of doing this. I only found it because it was at the Disneyland Star Trader gift shop, which back in the 90s, it was like $99 for a season pass. So everyone in my school had them, and we would just hang out at Disneyland. So luckily that season pass allowed me to find those figures. But it's amazing the ripple effect that one yellow carded collection had by splitting the basic figures up into 3 collections to try to make it easier for retailers to order more. It actually wound up backfiring because the yellow figures just got put on whatever peg. Retailers weren't differentiating, the red ones go here, the blue ones go here, and the yellow ones go there. And so one poor wave that just didn't sell through caused a huge effect and clogged for years. All right, next time we're going to talk about conventions and, the Disney buyout and how that affected some hard-to-find figures in some different ways, not just because of, shipping issues. All right, I hope I hit all the figures you might have had in mind as hard to find for Power of the Force 2 era. Did I miss anybody? Let me know in the comments below. You can always do a follow-up video as well. And thank you as always for watching and for sharing. It's the best way to show support for this channel. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time.